photographer who made pictures of all those vanishing cultures in the world. It's amazing.
In the world.
Yes.
Because there is another one here, Kurdistan in the Shadow of History. It's also photos, but of Kurdistan.
This is an old book, right?
Yeah, 2000 something.
Oh. It's amazing.
Yeah, unfortunately, some rain got to it in my house.
Yeah. But it also, it feels more like grounded even.
That's true.
From impersonation states, yeah. And it's such a pity that the world seems to develop into a kind of very uniform direction.
That's so true.
Pushed by certain cultures, and I don't like that. I think it's super important for people to retain their own culture and to be proud of it. I recently visited also Mauritania, and they have a real pastoralist heart. I said, keep it, Don't think like, oh, but this is old-fashioned, these are...
it's a shame or something, yeah.
And it's a shame. And so they still consider having camels is capital. Having camels is having capital. So when they are free, they go into the desert, sit in their tents, and enjoy the desert life.
A group of American sailors in the late 18th century, 1800s, they have a shipwreck off the coast of Mauritania, and then they get kidnapped. They go to the desert. Then they talk about the people of Mauritania. They say they have the harshest life in the desert. Sometimes dust storm, no water for months. But he said they were still looking down on the people who lived on the coast because they did not have camels. They had water, they had the sea, they had fish, but they said they are poor camels because they have no camels. Yes. That's how important it is.
And I have been in Mauritania twice now. One time to look into gold mining and other mining, and other time uranium mining. And the first time we made a stop somewhere in the desert. They put those small lights, and then there's a tent. So we made a stop. There was apparently some nephew or cousin or whatever of one of the drivers, and we sat down. It was from the Ministry of Environment, and the guy from the ministry sat down to make the tea.
Yeah.
So to coals and tea. Other guys from the tent went to their camels to get milk.
Oh, fresh milk.
Fresh milk. So we drank fresh milk, and then of course we had some tea. And we sat there, nice in the middle, and we were hosted like this. It was really nice. We all took a large bottle of milk with us. And
you spent the night there, or you went back?
No, we went. We had to continue our trek because we were heading for a large gold mine that is somewhere in the middle of the desert. And there's a long story, of course, to tell about all that. But and the last time I went there, we went from Nouakchott to Zouérat, and which is 750 kilometers through the desert. And it's so rich. It's so rich, and it changes all the time. The colors, the type of soil. Yeah. All of a sudden, you see some greenery. It's really amazing. I love it. And then we had lunch. We brought in some village because there's nowhere to eat.
Yeah.
So we bought some bread and then little things with tuna. And so we just opened the bread, tuna, and then under a tree, which was very nice also. We were there on a Sunday, and on Friday it had rained. And already on the Sunday, you could see the young leaves coming out. Yeah. Because it's super dry there. But as soon as it rains,
they're waiting for that
rain.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm very jealous of that because I really love deserts. And for someone who hasn't seen deserts, they think it's all the same, just sand. But if you look closely, as you say, it changes every...
Yes. And what I tell the Mauritanians, because the entire northern part is being divided in concessions. I mean, it's their country. But I'm always honest, and I can talk. I have nothing to win, nothing to lose. I mean, I'm not there to gain anything, and I'm always respectful. But to ask them, these deserts are sometimes being treated as if they're worth nothing, as if they're dead land, which is not true. It's a very precious and fragile but very solid and resistant ecosystem.
That's true.
So you need to respect it and not just throw it away to miners who mine away all the precious environment.
Yeah.
Because then for your children, grandchildren, and their grandchildren, there's nothing left.
That's very true.
And you kill a lot of your own environment because that ecosystem influences the rest of the country as well.
Yeah, that's very true.
Anyway, so there are lots of challenges, huh?
Yeah, I read in a magazine that you gave me the other day, and that you worked in Mali as well, Senegal, Mali.
Yeah.
And then we talked about how no one can say the experience of Mali does not apply to us in the Middle East or somewhere else. Even if there are differences,
of course there are differences.
There are similarities as well.
Yes.
When it comes to climate change, the environmental degradation.
Yeah, and no, absolutely. But even we could say that in the Netherlands we experience more extreme weather events.
You wouldn't think that usually. You think Netherlands is set forever, but you have challenges there.
We have more droughts, more drought spells.
Yeah.
We have extreme rain, also in Germany, and of course the rivers from Germany. When the rivers fill in Germany, they come to the Netherlands. So you get more flooding potentially. So we're now giving our rivers more room so that they can get more water, and we make more possibilities to retain water, because you get a lot of water then not enough.
Yeah.
So you need also to create new possibilities for rivers and anywhere in our country to retain the water, to make it sink.
Exactly. Not a lot of, water shortage is bad, then too much water too suddenly is also devastating.
And for example, our drink water companies, I recently chaired a working group on a review of an environmental impact study for new water, because we need more water. We are growing in terms of population and water consumption. And then I saw how precise these companies have to be. It's quite, because they go deep. So this is old water. So does it refill quick enough? Because they cannot take more than the
recharge.
The recharging goes, and the recharging comes from tens of kilometers further on the road. It's not from that exact environment, but it's a nature reserve further on the road. But it has also a tendency to become drier there. So you need to know those connections and to really take care of that environment to be able to get enough water here. Yeah. So, you have lots of relationships that if you don't do proper research, you don't do your homework, and you don't have that reviewed and then look together, okay, you did your homework, we did our homework, and there's a little bit of a gap left and right. So how do we fill that in the best way possible?
That's exactly what Netherlands Commission for Environmental Assessment is doing. And I think it's actually the most important stage or phase of any environmental project. You do the assessment.
Yes.
How to do it properly, how to do it systematically.
We help.
Not to do it wrong, basically.
Yeah, so we don't do the impact studies ourselves, but we can help putting together the best of terms of reference.
Yeah.
Because that's not easy, and success starts at the start.
That's true.
So if you have really good terms of reference and a clear idea of the scoping of a study, so what do we need to study to get a good impact assessment study, then you do a much better study. And then at the end of the street, you have less problems. Because then the study will be better, less comments, less problems, and you can start earlier. And people often say, why do we have to say that? So we have delay in our projects. No, the delay comes if you don't prepare well.
It saves you time later.
It saves you a lot of time later, but also failure.
Yes.
Because if you don't really take into account now, like in a city like this one, or in a country like this, if you don't take this into account now, you get the consequences later, and they will be harsh.
Yeah, and I've seen many projects here, everywhere else, different projects, and they don't do it properly, they don't do the studies, they will have to do it again, which means more money. It's not cost effective to do it quickly without the right research and studies.
That, but also at a more strategic level, if you want to develop a proper policy on something, and you say you want to develop your economic policy as a country, and you don't take into account what that means for people and planet, then you have a problem later on the road. So if you do that immediately, and you consider several options for directions you might want to go, and you look at the pros and cons of each of those options, you can make better choices. And basically, what you often see is that governments are confronted with the need for decision making without having proper documentation and a proper process before that enables them to make those good decisions. So basically, if you're a mayor or a minister or whoever that is competent authority to make decisions on investments, you make an investment without really knowing what that means and what the consequences are, both for your people and the planet. And you can't do that. So it is really helpful for the decision makers to have a good job being done on those assessments. And also, as I sometimes tell those decision makers, it makes your life easier also when you have to defend a certain decision in your parliament, for example, or in a ministerial council. Because then you say, hey, we have this and this information. We have looked into the different options. We have looked into the pros and cons of each of these options. Well, none were optimal. But if we put those together, we get quite an optimal outcome if you look at the balance between the economic, environmental, and social aspects.
Yeah, exactly. And you could answer their concerns, people, decision makers, implementers, once you've done the studies.
So they have the arguments in their hands then to say, why did we take this decision and why don't we allow another decision? Because if you don't have that, you see that in of course, we have those discussions in our own country as well. Yeah, why do we don't need those rules and regulations and we can't build as we want? Yeah, that is because if you just leave developers to do what they want, they don't care. They don't have that responsibility for the common good.
Yeah.
Governments have that responsibility, so they need to take responsibility. And then you see that those rules and regulations are there to protect the people and the environment. And like in the Netherlands, we have quite an intensive also public participation part, which is compulsory in this type of work. There are international agreements on how should you do an environmental and social impact assessment study. And public participation is part of the deal. And if you do that, people start also understanding better why a government later makes certain choices if they take people seriously. So, for example, in the Netherlands, when you have done a study, in the course of the study, you have to meaningfully involve the potentially affected population or stakeholders. And then when the study is there, it is being made public by the relevant government level, open for public to comment on. And those comments, together with the study, are coming our direction as a commission when we are asked to review it. So we see, okay, this is a study. Here we have the comments by the stakeholders. So we take them along.
Yeah, so no one will later come and say, you didn't consult me.
Yes.
Basically, what you are saying is that everyone is involved. People, implementers, government, assessors.
Yes, everyone needs to be involved. And if we come with a review, it's independent review, so no government can influence us. We come with that review and conclusions and an advice to a certain government. If they don't take that into account, the municipal council can say, or the stakeholders can say, hey, you have this study here. This is the review by the independent commission. So you have done nothing with the points they make. They can go to court.
Oh,
yes.
It means it's supported by law.
It's supported
That's
by law.
why they will have to listen to the.
They will have to account for not having done anything.
And you mentioned something really important, which I also read, is that when you do an assessment or help a government draw the right policy, is to make sure their projects align with international agreements. Because the KRG, Iraq, they have many international climate agreements, the Paris Agreement and that. That's a good point, that what you do, make sure it answers some of your own agreements.
Absolutely. So we don't, we are there to support a government, and any government has its policies. This is our vision, these are our strategies and policies, and they have rules, regulations, legislation. But also if those not suffice as yet, so there are gaps in that legislation, for example, or in the regulations that have to be there on the ground to secure implementation of the law, we always take into account, for example, the IFC performance standards. So these is a group of performance standards that any project has to comply with. And so if the national local legislation is not enough yet, or has some gaps, then we always apply the IFC performance standards. That's international best practice. And so if you follow that international best practice, you don't even have to have this legislation yet. You can say, okay, we are not perfect yet, which of course happens a lot. But by applying those external standards, we are internationally recognized as these standards at this moment. We see to it that we follow the best practice available. And that is absolutely is a good point you make. That's really important.
And then you work at the request of governments.
Yes.
So that means now you are in the Kurdistan region. When a government requests you to do the studies, for example, or an assessment, do they tell you which areas to assess, or you do an overall assessment of a country?
No, it depends what the government wants. We are an independent commission. We are funded by Dutch government, but we're independent in the choices we make. So our mandate is quite broad. A government doesn't have to pay for our services. We pay for our own services. So there's no money going over the table, which I feel is a very healthy. This can create a very healthy relationship. So they can ask our support at different levels. Project level, for example, there's a project for a dam, which is very relevant in this country, in this region. And they have done an environmental impact study. So the government can ask us, would you be willing to review that study, to look at the quality of the study? Has everything being considered? Is the information complete? Is it relevant to the decision that has to be made? So we can come, and then I would chair a working group of experts, relevant experts in that field, who know everything about dams and etc., and also an ecologist and whatever is needed. And we would go to the location, look at it, talk to people, of course, study the study that has been made, and then come to an advice. So we would come to a review with an advice for the government, like, okay, here are gaps in the study. We advise that the government doesn't take a decision before these gaps have been filled. And we can also say, okay, this is not an essential point, but we advise the government that when they take a decision, that in the process of permitting, they take this into consideration and force the company or the organization implementing the project to take care of it. And then, of course, monitoring and enforcement is very important.
You make sure that they take into account the suggestions you make?
No, that's a responsibility of the government, of course, but we look whether there's any follow-up. If we come to the conclusion that we make advice for a government and they don't do anything with it, we go into a conversation with each other to say, hey,
you didn't do it.
No. How is our relationship developing? Because there's a lot of requests that come to our direction. And of course, we want to see that we have a productive relationship. And sometimes, not always, everything goes well in the first instance, but you want to make progress together. But also, for example, we could do capacity building.
Yes.
Of civil servants, but also taking into account NGOs, other stakeholders. We can do something that we call an easy map. The words already reflects a little bit what it is, an easy mapping process. So you put together a group of civil servants, but can also be completed by NGOs or maybe others. And you make an analysis together. We have developed this system together with a South African university years ago. And you can do an analysis. Okay, if we look at our environmental impact assessment system, where are we? So what is going well? What is going a little bit less? How come? Are there any obstacles? Do we miss capacities? Are we skilled enough? Are there some, in the governance structure, are there some issues that need to be resolved to be able to make steps forward? These kinds of very productive. And then based on the conclusions, because it's the people themselves who know, right?
Yeah.
So based on those conclusions, we can say, okay, then we propose that we support you in these and these and these ways.
Yeah.
But also, for example, we are talking with some countries about their structures. And okay, this is how you work at this moment. It doesn't work really well. And then you go into a discussion on, okay, how do they do this in other countries? What works well, what doesn't work in those contexts? What do you think? Splitting responsibilities, not doing stuff that basically others should do. And as a government, taking on just those responsibilities that are unique for a government. So that as a government, you do just what you have to do as a government and assign other tasks to other organizations, for example. For example, in our case, our government doesn't do any environmental impact studies itself. It assigns impact studies to consultants.
Is it a good way to do that, or the government itself should do it?
No. Because, you
don't do it.
No, because you need a lot of expertise and experience to do this. And consultants have to keep updated because knowledge continuously changes.
Yes.
So you need the newest and most recent knowledge to do a good assessment. And those consultants, they acquire new experience and expertise every single day. Why, as a government, would you do that yourself? So our government, but also companies that want to do a large building project or develop some neighborhood, for example, they are obliged to do a study, and they always assign a consultant to do it. And then there's this obligation afterwards, when the study is finished, to ask us for a review. So we do the independent review.
The top layer of reviews.
So the government assigns a consultant to do the study, for example, for new neighborhood development. That's the government responsibility. And then there is we do the review, and then we give them recommendations. For example, then in that large neighborhood development project, you have 5 or 6 projects, concrete projects, this part, that part, and they have to do an environmental impact study as well.
Yes.
And most of the time, these are developers, so companies, private companies that develop those parts. So they assign a consultant to do the work, and we do the review as well, and then we advise the government.
Nice. And so is this the first time you look into the Kurdistan region? Because you have worked, as I said, in South America, in Africa, in Europe. And is it the first time here?
I think we have reached out at some point to Iraq, but some time ago. And but that, for example, we have an MOU with UNESCO, and that is about the marshlands in federal Iraq. that they have asked us to take to take a look at those marshlands, because of course there are some issues to be solved there.
Yes.
And but for the Kurdistan region, we're most happy to be here now for the first time in a kind of fact-finding mission. So we are speaking with lots and lots of people from the government, but also from the non-governmental side, with a view to discover where our services might be of use. And then it's up to the government to invite us back. Say, okay, so we can talk together. Okay, what would be nice ways how to support? And then we make an agreement on how we go
on the next
forward
step.
Together on the next step.
So this now is just, as you said, fact-finding to get a picture or an understanding
to get
of the situation.
Of the situation, to listen to the people, to hear what the most urgent issues are in this region. Well, of course, it won't surprise you that water is a very
most
pressing issue that needs to be resolved. And I think we can be of use here. But it requires a request by the government. It could be the central, the regional government, could be also municipal government, to ask us back to either do a review, do this easy map process with them, or do capacity development, or a combination of everything. And our goal, our main objective, is to help governments to change the system of environmental impact assessment so that become more sturdy, and to see to it that environmental considerations, but also the social considerations, because they often are connected.
So about people, everything is about
people and planet, that those are being included in any policy, program or project. So that every decision a government makes takes those properly into account, so that if you then accumulate all those projects, you will get a proper outcome and not come to the conclusions, oh my God, we just agreed on 15 building projects and now we are stuck with water scarcity. We don't have enough power. There's no greenery. Oh my God, emissions go up terribly. Yeah. So you have a lot of issues to consider there.
And you never pick an area to study or assess yourselves. So say to the Kurdish government, let's say, let's assess this area. They tell you first we have water problems or land degradation or something.
Yeah.
They choose the field and then you step in.
Yeah, I think that's logical. If you, the Kurdish people and the Kurdish government are the owners of this land, so it's
they will know what's.
They know what the priorities are, and they tell us honestly what the priorities are. So then it's not very difficult to see where we might have to start with our support. So I think one of the logical sectors is the water sector.
But then it happens if you, let's say, talk to people in the Ministry of Agriculture, people in the Ministry of Natural Resources, different ministries, they will each tell you that their area is more important, more pressing. In that situation, how will you decide which area is a priority? Does the Prime Minister's office decide, or your commission decide to pick one instead of another?
Listen, we are not the boss of any environment, so we have to comply with what is best in the context of the governance context of a country. So, for example, if here the Prime Minister's office would be a best place, or maybe the Ministry of Planning, I don't know. So then we have to see who would be the coordinating governmental responsible to bring those parties together, because you can say, okay, agriculture is about water, but and tourism is about water, and municipalities are about. Basically, water is a cross-cutting issue.
Yes.
Whatever you do in this country, water will be there, and drinking water, wastewater, surface water, underground water, it's all connected. So whatever you do, it will influence either your underground water aquifers or the growth of your tree coverage, or it will influence the quality of your agricultural products. And also, you might want to really reconsider certain agricultural choices if you take water and the environment into account. For example, we have this issue in the Netherlands, like we have large-scale husbandry, but it's industrial-scale husbandry. And those animals eat a lot of feed. And so that feed is partly grown as crops in the Netherlands instead of food for people. But also we have to import a lot of feed for the animals because
still, despite what's grown there.
Absolutely, and because they eat a lot, and that goes to the detriment of, for example, the Amazon forest in Brazil. So things are connected. We are all connected in this world, and so we have to reconsider, and that is quite. Of course, it's a political issue also, because there are large companies who take advantage of this large husbandry sector. So we have to go to more nature-based agriculture, a nature-inclusive agriculture, more biological agriculture, more extensive, not so intensive, eating less meat, becoming more plant-based. Because we need, all of us, people in the world, need to start eating less meat and become more plant-based.
Behavioral change is important.
Behavioral change is very important. So I always look at my children. Every piece of plastic on the street, they take up and put it in the garbage bin. And why? Because I have taught them never leave anything on the street. And when you see something that you can pick it up. And I remember when I was a child, my father smoked. And he tended to open the window of the car and hop, ashtray out of the window.
Yeah.
You know, he emptied the ashtray. My mother has always been a very environmentally responsible, but she said, "Oh, don't do this. You cannot do this. Absolutely not."
Yeah.
And so, also we ate little meat and a lot of veggies because my mother was already. She knew. She was a medical doctor, and she knew, and she lived according to what she knew.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, it's something which has been ingrained in me, and I teach my children. Both my children are nearly vegetarian, well, basically vegetarian, but not vegan, but vegetarian. So from time, my daughter lives in the Caribbean at this moment, and only when fish is caught, one fish per time on a boat that she sails on, she will eat the fish.
Wow.
No fish that
responsible. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, and sometimes it hurts a little if you think, oh my God, that meat is so good. But then I tell myself, okay, you can tell yourself this every single time, but then if everybody does that, nothing changes.
Yes.
So we have to also control ourselves there.
It's very true. I mean, no matter what a government does for the environment, awareness, planning, assessment, if individual members of that society are not helping or not involved, you can't do much, because the government is a government, and then you have millions of people.
Yeah.
It's much better.
Yeah, and I think we're all responsible. Yeah. Companies have to take full responsibility. They have a large influence. As consumers, we can vote with our feet, with our wallet, by making different choices.
Yes.
And through that, also push a government to change.
Yes.
And a government is the enabler. Yeah. And a government has to take as an enabler for people to flourish, and for the environment to flourish, has to take the right decisions.
Yeah.
If not, they're not working for the common good.
And sometimes, like, there is a conflict, the price of something goes up, people worry, and I say, this is a good time to change your behavior. If the price of meat or oil, something goes up, maybe it's an opportunity to slow down a bit.
Of course, we saw that in countries like ours, in European countries, after the start of the Ukraine war.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, our energy prices went up big time because of the oil prices. And the Netherlands are, maybe you don't know this, but we have a reputation of being stingy. But I would say we have a reputation to look after our money.
Yes.
And
it's a positive way to
yeah,
look
it's
at
a positive way to look at it. And all of a sudden, in the Netherlands, because prices went up big time, 35% savings in energy use.
Wow.
35% in no time. Because people felt it in their wallet, started behaving totally differently.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you look at water prices here, I don't know how that is, but anything that you price gets value.
Yes.
Anything that is without price doesn't have value.
Yeah.
So, if people have to pay for water, and for example, increasingly paying for water, so the more water you use, the higher the price gets per liter, then they start thinking twice.
Exactly, yeah. And I think it happened actually with the Ukraine war and prices going up. Here it happened with the price of cooking oil. Because it's made of sunflower seeds, and they produce most of it. And that's when I thought of this idea, okay, let's have less cooking oil, which is bad anyway. Everyone says it's bad.
Yes.
And instead of rushing to buy more, you could scale back on the use of that.
Yeah, and growing different crops. And I mean, there are so many ways to try to reduce detrimental behavior and also incentivize positive behaviors, and also make people aware of the beauty of nature and its importance.
Yeah.
And we only have one planet. And we're all connected with one another, whether we live here or in my country in Europe.
Yeah.
Or whether it's in Mauritania or in Egypt or here or in South Africa. In the end, we're all in this one planet.
Yeah.
And if we go on like this, unfortunately, it won't end so well for humankind.
Exactly.
I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So we have to take responsibility, all of us together. And to be honest, I think it's a great pleasure and honor that we have this opportunity as a commission to be able to support in this way, demand-driven, with a government having the ownership of the problems and and determining also what they want to work on, to be able to use all that expertise and experience we have to help others. Not in a dominating or oppressive way, but because it's beautiful to be able to help each other as human beings, based on what we have all learned.
Yeah.
And in the process, I learn a lot myself, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Exchange of knowledge.
Yes.
And sharing it with others. Do you have examples, for example, to show when you come to Kurdistan or you go to Kenya or somewhere? Do you have examples, successful examples, for example, that might apply to the authorities of that country, or every time you do it, it's brand new?
No, but there are different types of issues.
Yeah.
For example, I was in Kenya to review their proposed program on nuclear energy development. Yeah, and we put together quite a critical report, because in the study that had been made, and it's published, so I don't have to.
It says in your program that you publish everything.
Yeah, we are transparent because transparency is very important. I know many governments are hesitant in being transparent, but in the end, transparency leads to more trust in your population. So to also more public support, because secrecy always leads to distrust.
Yes.
And a lack of public support. So we really attach importance to being transparent, and we share our outcomes also with the people that we have spoken with.
Yes.
And so we had a very critical report, and they had to go back to the drawing table in principle. But that's up to the Kenyan decision makers, what they do with it. But they have a court as well. So and they take that seriously. So they took the process seriously. But also you see that, for example, when we go to places, you see that there's often also a lack of understanding how you deal with populations. I remember also, for example, in Guinea-Conakry in West Africa, there was a mining project promoted or proposed in a concession in the middle of a UNESCO reserve, So that is protected, heavily protected area, but there's a concession in the middle of that area. And there are lots of mining concessions around that area as well. And the people are living there are all farmers and simple people, not highly educated people, but of course they know how to grow their crops and they already don't have proper access anymore to their fields. But also they think they have been made to understand that because there's unemployment for young people, also because they don't have access to their fields anymore.
Yeah.
And they've made to think that mining comes with huge amounts of jobs, which is not true.
Because always companies make that promise. They say, we bring this, it will lead to job creation.
It's not more than several hundred jobs, not more than that, which is very little in a large area. And then, for example, people think that they don't understand what mining means. Mining means cutting away mountains. In this, it's a mountain, and it's huge. And it's a relatively small mine, but huge areas. It's always about millions and millions of cubic tons. It's unimaginable, really. So I ask those people, have you ever seen a mine? I've never seen a mine. Have you ever seen a picture of a mine? Never seen a picture of a mine. So those people are not being properly informed what a mine implies in their back garden. So their back garden is going to be non-existent.
Because that promise of jobs is so strong in many places.
Yes.
Then later, even locals will realize that this was bad.
And you know what? Then conflict.
Yes.
So it leads to tensions, to distrust, to aggression, to conflict with populations who feel betrayed.
Yeah.
And if you look at mining mining also brings in foreign workers, often relatively low educated workers from different countries, and with that comes also intrusion in the social structure of villages. And for example, people told me there was already a case of a girl that had been made pregnant by one of those foreign workers. And then immediately you have a conflict. So if you do the work well, and before you start giving away concessions of whatever, and let alone starting projects, if you do really good impact assessments, you prevent this from happening.
Yes.
Because if you listen to people, people know. People are not stupid.
Yes.
Whether they have had formal education or not, they know.
They know because they have centuries of knowledge.
Centuries of knowledge, they know.
Yeah.
So, for example, I suggested there also to consider a non-project. So, no mining. And then alternatives development, ecotourism, something like that. Alternative ways of making use of that beautiful environment, which is UNESCO preserved, and then to make sustainable income for people at the bottom of the pyramid.
Exactly.
Because the trickle-down system doesn't always work. We know that. It is always the promise, it will trickle down and then everybody will benefit. It's not true.
Yeah.
So you will have to see to it that the people who live there, they can directly benefit. And I think there are more ways than just, mining away mountains.
Yeah.
And of course, for some areas that's okay, but you don't have to have your entire country mined open.
Exactly.
And then the produce is being shipped away.
And then people may not know. We said we had a conversation the other day, and now you said people are not stupid, they know. In my own life, I see people in the countryside, in villages. Experts give you all the scientific explanation of climate change, but locals give you the actual consequence of climate change.
Absolutely.
They say 10 years ago, this water was always running, or 10 years ago, the crop was this much. But they do not necessarily know how to put it into
They don't call it climate change.
They don't call it climate change, exactly.
Yeah.
But they will explain to you everything.
What is happening.
And it's the same everywhere. It's not that people in Kurdistan or in Africa somewhere need education. They need support more than education, I think.
No, I totally agree. And I know climate change deniers.
Yeah.
We all know them, probably. And I always tell them everywhere I go, and I talk with people in rural areas, they all know what's happening. They all see what's happening.
Yeah.
They tell me the rains are less, but sometimes we get enormous flooding. Our animals die. Our crops are less. Yeah, people know.
Yeah.
They feel it. Then they say, yeah, when I was a boy, and sometimes they only like 35 now. When I was a boy, it rained so and so, but the last since I have grown older and are married, and then around 20, okay, now I see that things are changing. They know.
Yeah.
So we tell people, go.
They are like a living record of the change.
Absolutely. I tell to the deniers, please go and inform yourself with people who live in climate.
Yeah.
They know, they see, they feel.
Deniers often decide on a week period. For example, if a winter is too cold, they say, where is global warming?
Yeah, yeah.
And I say, actually, this is also a climate change. When it's too cold, doesn't mean there is no global warming. It is still caused by global warming, still caused. So if there's too much rain for a month, they say, oh, there's no drought. Yeah. But that's not how it works. Works over a long period of time.
Absolutely. And for example, problems here are different from in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, we're considering, okay, if sea level rise happens faster than we think, so how to protect our country against the water, because our country for 1/3 is below sea level. So how will we deal with this? Here, the drought and the temperature rise will lead to uninhabitable environments if no measures are being taken. So we all have to deal with climate change, and probably our contribution to it is much larger than here in this country, but still, we have to take our responsibility, whether we are responsible or not. You have to face the consequences and with open eyes.
Yeah,
hiding doesn't help.
That's true. And in my experience, I often say that climate change, pollution, for example, global warming might be caused by large or big industrial countries outside our control. Here, the issue is more on the ground level. Yeah. Environmental degradation is a major issue in the Kurdistan region and in Iraq. Polluting rivers, waste from manufacturing plants. Deforestation, desertification. So we cannot sit back and say, oh, it was caused by the Industrial Revolution, by US, China, and India. That is true in the sky, but on the ground, we are responsible for what's happening.
Yeah, and on the ground, certain behaviors contribute to a deterioration of the natural environment, whether with or without climate change.
Exactly.
It's needed to work on this. Yeah.
And it has many more aspects, I think, than climate. Pollution is pollution. But then if you destroy biodiversity, wildlife habitat, pollute the rivers, it's way more than just pollution.
Totally. And I think if you do that well, so you see to it that rivers are not polluted anymore, you do a reforestation, you see to biodiversity protection and growth, you protect your habitats. I mean, this is also a way to fight climate change.
Yeah,
it will contribute to a better environment, and even there are experiments by regreening and regrowing greenery to push back the lack of rain, for example. So to contribute to more humidity, which leads to better rainfall.
Wow.
So
water catchment.
And regreening large areas and basically recreating a kind of natural environment that produces humidity that can contribute to a better climate condition.
And nature has this amazing nature or habit of regenerating itself. Just leave it alone. An animal that has disappeared for decades suddenly comes back. A plant that you think has gone extinct
all of a
grows
sudden
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, like with the seeds you talked about, or the trees in Mauritania, there are some seeds that could hibernate for years, I've read.
Yeah.
And for a country like the Kurdistan region, it's all good to. We have been through conflict, as you know.
Of course, yeah.
A country like here, when you start to have stability and peace, and work on your climate and environment, that's why these kinds of assessments and studies are important, because you are stable, you have some budget, some international support. That's when you have to pause and say how to go forward. Just to compensate for your past destruction and devastation doesn't mean you have to do everything quickly.
No, that's always a challenge. I call that strategic patience.
Yeah.
So a country, it's difficult because you think, you need to speed up and be fast and accelerate. But sometimes to sit back and do a good study before and think twice makes it much easier afterwards and faster as well. Yeah. And you don't run into unexpected problems that you haven't thought of before. So then you have to take 10 steps back.
Yes.
And now you just sit back, have that good study done, ask us, for example, for a review. We only take 6 weeks, so you cannot say, there's a huge delay. So most of the time, between 6 weeks and 2 months, we have done our review. And we come up with an advice. It doesn't take a lot of time. We're fast.
And what happens after the 6 weeks?
We offer our advice to the government, and the government works with the advice or doesn't work with it. So it's up to a government to. So
after 6 weeks, you will no longer be involved with that country.
No,
that's only the first step.
That is one of the steps. So in the context of an advice or after advice, we can, of course, continue the conversation, or maybe in parallel to the conversation, we do an advice to show our counterparts on how that works in practice, how we do it, so that they can see how do we get from a pile of papers, which a study is, to an actual advice that is solid and meaningful and makes a difference. And that's not like an advice like this. It's between 20 and 30 pages, readable, all in all. Yeah, very readable with a summary. And we know, of course, that busy decision makers most of the time read the summary. So we always pay lots of attention to the summary. Also, we advise often to the ones that make the environmental impact study to increase the quality of the summary, so that decision makers really can see what the issues are just reading the summary. Also for the general public. And what we're doing more and more is to look into the readability and accessibility of our advices also for a more general public that is not used to reading difficult reports.
Yeah.
Because of course it's always a kind of difficult language.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we are now even considering to do spoken reports in the local language so that people can understand it.
That's good.
And I was thinking of these types of issues so that we don't, we say we are transparent, but transparency is not just putting somewhere on a website, but also to think
inclusive.
About, how can people understand what we deliver?
Yeah.
Especially people that we speak with, because not everyone is speaking English, for example. So local language is important.
And then you said it shouldn't be a show. You need sincerity from your partner in the government here or anywhere else that they truly need this advice.
That they need it
for the sake of saying, okay, we consulted the Dutch.
Tick the boxes.
Exactly.
I mean, that doesn't make sense, neither for them nor for us.
Yeah.
And so, and we hope, of course, that the Kurdistan region government is sincere. So far, I have a really good feeling, and we have been warmly welcomed, really. And it was the doors were open.
Yes, there is actually the sincerity and intention to work for the climate and environment.
Yeah, so we really feel that there's a lot of political will and goodwill, and also interest at civil servants level to learn and to become better, which is, we are all learning, right? Yes. So that's fantastic. So now see how we move forward in a concrete manner.
Yeah, and you said that you would try to improve a system, not yourself. Like you would rather see a government's own environmental assessment teams and experts advance than advising or seeking foreign advice on every project. You would rather, it's like teaching someone how to fish better than feeding them a fish.
Listen, my principle is always, how do I make myself obsolete as soon as possible?
Which is against your own
plan.
But that's what you want.
Anyway. No, that's what our objective is. That a government can take care of its own issues in the optimal manner. And the world is a huge place. So there's always work for us. And if there's no work for us anymore, we make a party and we...
fulfill your dream.
The organization isn't necessary anymore. We are not there to... promote ourselves in that sense. And it's lovely to see others grow. What is better than see others grow?
Exactly. As you said, you work here for 6 weeks, let's say 2 months, but the government in Kurdistan, anywhere else, is there forever. You would rather see them from afar, that they are actually going in the right direction.
Yeah, we can work for years. We can help them for years. And we won't be on the ground all the time, but we will be talking with one another. We can advise them on a strategic level, more practical level. We can help with the organizational setup if they have questions on this. So it's we have patience because we are funded, so we don't have to rush. We have to be away here with results in 2 years. No, we can say, okay, this is the agenda we have put together. So this is what we're heading for, and then we start moving forward. From year to year, short term, medium term, long term.
And it doesn't cost anything to the local government here or wherever you work. You are funded by the Dutch government and you offer these services for free. Right?
Yes. And our expertise and experience comes for free. If we organize workshops, we expect the government to, for example, to make available space. But that is something we discuss in an open and an honest manner. But our people come for free. I'm here. I'm not to be paid. And nor are our experts. So we pay our own bills.
And have you seen much of Kurdistan on this trip or not yet?
No, not yet. So it was very intense. We have 5 days, full days. So mostly here in Erbil and then also in Duhok. We have been there for half a day to talk with the local, with the deputy governor, the local government, and an organization that works there on basically on civil servants' qualities and skills. But we come back.
And your experts are only Dutch and in Netherlands, or you have?
No, we
could bring an expert from somewhere else.
Yeah. We have also an international team. My colleague who's here with me she comes from Lebanon. She works with us in the Netherlands and lives in the Netherlands now. We have someone from Benin, West Africa. We have someone who lived in Brazil and in Colombia. She speaks Spanish and Portuguese. We have a French guy. So we have different nationalities in the house, which is great. And they work with us. We work with each other in the team as one, which is great.
That's amazing. So since you are so busy and you have been here for only 5 days, I appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to me and to our audience about what you do.
Yeah, to be honest, I love to have been here, and thank you so much for the invitation to speak with you in this wonderful and important podcast that you're entertaining. And And keep up the good work. There's, I think, a lot of work to do here in the country in terms of environmental and biodiversity related issues. Well, in any country, but certainly also here. And see you next time, maybe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.